All right, so here's the plan. We're gonna eat hyper palatable foods that are just delicious and taste like crack. Huge bonus if they have trans fats, sugars, or highly processed ingredients. Like if you can't read the label, that's gonna be awesome. I would avoid sunlight at any cost. Do everything alone. If you can be stressed and a little bit pissed off too while you're doing it, that would be awesome. Make sure that you're not moving whatsoever. If you're feeling real crazy, maybe pick up smoking and like drink half a liter of vodka a day. And with that protocol, you are gonna absolutely be teed off for obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, maybe some depression. If you're lucky, you might even get cancer, have a stroke or a heart attack. So that's the plan. If that plan sounds bad to you and you don't want those things, let's talk about the actual plan. And as you can see, it's crazy, and how we can improve our metabolic health, live long, happy, highly energetic, enjoyable lives. All right, if you're not super into the science, I understand that. If you're not, I'm gonna break everything down into actionable steps that you can actually apply to your life today. But I do want to talk about the mechanisms and processes a little bit so you can learn about how your body works and how to make it awesome. So first, let's just define metabolism. Essentially, it's broken down into three things. Number one, conversion of food into energy. Number two, building and repairing of tissues. And number three, regulating bodily functions. So think of these at the extreme levels. Think of having extremely poor conversion of food to energy. Maybe an example would be something like IBS or Crohn's disease, super miserable. Think of the other extreme, a very healthy metabolism where anything that you eat almost turns into muscle and healthy organ tissue and healthy cells. That would be awesome, right? All right, the extremes for building and repairing tissue. If you couldn't repair any of your tissue, your bones were brittle and falling apart like you had osteoporosis, you couldn't build muscle cells, so you could never repair and fix your body. If you got a disease or if you got sick, you just maybe died. Now on the other side of that spectrum, imagine you were able to heal very quickly from any training. You were able to build muscle easily, your joints and connective tissue were all healthy, your organs were all healthy and functioning well. That would be incredible. Number three, regulation of body functions. If you can't do this, that gets really ugly. On the opposite side, if you can regulate bodily functions very well, you always sleep well, you always have good energy throughout the day, your mood's consistent, your cognition's always there, so you always feel like you're like keyed up and on point. That would be awesome. What would you call someone who's like on the far end of high functioning metabolism for all three of those? I don't know, like Clark Kent or something? That would be a pretty awesome life. So that's what we're talking about in this video, and that's what I want to help you optimize so you can live the most awesome life you possibly can. Now, before we get into the specific action steps, I want to give kind of a breakdown of everything that's implicated in metabolism. And I won't go super into depth on each of these. Feel free to screenshot and look at the entire list right now if you'd like. But one of the incredible things about starting to focus on your metabolic health is, as we mentioned earlier, one of the primary things that your metabolism is responsible for is regulating your bodily functions. And what that means is when we improve one of these, let's say, for example, maintaining a healthy body weight and body fat percentage, that's going to have regulatory effects that will improve so many other things, like insulin sensitivity, like optimizing hormone ratios, like growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, etc. It'll also have positive influences on inflammation, how easy it is to maintain or increase lean body mass. So metabolism is an incredible thing to focus on, and I don't think it gets enough attention. It's starting to get a little bit of attention with like the Maha movement and stuff, which I freaking love. But I want you to be really encouraged going into this video. Number one, by the fact that these action steps I'm going to give you next are very simple to implement. And number two, once you start to make just a little bit of progress in terms of improving your metabolism, you'll start this upward spiral, and it'll start to affect all other facets of your health. So whether you're in a great place with your health and you just want to optimize a few things and make a couple tweaks, or if you're not in a great place with your health right now, maybe you have some issues that you really need to work through, or some things that make you uncomfortable or self-conscious, you can start to make these little changes and you're going to have a ton of positive benefits that carry over to every other area of your health. So I really want to encourage you with that. All right, now let's quit BSing and get into it. All right, now let's get into action steps. So number one, I'm going to have you ask yourself a question. Are you at a healthy body weight and body fat? And this is your honest answer to yourself. Some guidelines: BMI for men and women, the healthy range is considered 18.5 to 25. I'll drop a BMI calculator so you can look yours up. If you're in that range, you're good to go. If you're under or above that range, that's going to be a judgment call for you in terms of how you feel subjectively in your body. If you're very muscular and you have like a BMI of 27, but your body fat's really low, obviously you're doing fine. So that takes care of weight. And then in terms of body fat, Just for some reference ranges here, I would say a healthy body fat, in my opinion, for men is anywhere between 8 to 20%. That looks pretty healthy and feels pretty good on most men. It'll put you in an optimal hormonal environment where your testosterone will be able to not be blunted by having too much estrogen because you have too much fat tissue, etc. So that'll put you in a good spot as a male, 8 to 20%. As a woman, crazy that I know men and women are different. Healthy range is going to be 15 to 30%. So if you're anywhere in that range, again, assess this based on how you subjectively feel about your body. If you want to improve something and you're in these ranges, but you still want to drop some body fat or you want to add some lean muscle, okay, perfect. That's your goal. But that's number one for action steps. Now, if you answered no to this question, you don't think subjectively that your body weight and your body fat are healthy. Here's the action step I'm going to give you to start right now, super easy, and you can learn and add other things as you go. Add 70 minutes of walking to your week. That could be 7 10-minute walks. That could be 2 35-minute walks. It can be a walk with your dog. It can be just walking around the yard, doing paces around your kitchen, whatever. 70 minutes of walking to your week, easiest action step that you can take right there. Now, the reason why this is number one is not because anyone's bad if you don't have a healthy body weight or a healthy body fat. Like in America, our food is so unhealthy that our government's starting to get involved, right? Everyone has their thing. Doesn't make you a bad person if you're not right in this range. But just know this is something that you want to focus on to get to where you want to be, because as I said earlier, improving one area of metabolism is going to have massive impacts on others. And if you can get to a point where you are at a healthy weight, it's going to have huge impacts on your insulin sensitivity, which will just make you feel better and have more energy throughout the day. It'll also positively impact your hormonal status. It will reduce inflammation. You're just going to feel better overall. So this would be my number one target, to shoot for a healthy body weight and body fat. All right, number two, and we're also going to hit number three with it. So number two is to develop a sleep hygiene routine so that your circadian rhythm is regulated and that your hormonal environment is optimized as much as possible. Sleep is absolutely critical for hormonal environment, and hormones influence how our body holds on to muscle, how our body uses energy, how much energy we have throughout the day. All of these things are influenced by sleep. All right, a couple of recommendations here. Number one, make sure that your room is cool enough when you're sleeping. It should be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 64 to 70 degrees if you can do this. I understand if you don't have AC or something, like you can't necessarily manage that, but do what you can to get your room temperature down while you're sleeping. That's going to help your circadian rhythm understand that it's time to slow down, put you into a parasympathetic state, and then you'll be in that rest and digest parasympathetic state throughout your sleeping. Number two, if you can, limit light from your external environment 30 minutes before you're sleeping. This could be turning screens off and going to just a book. This could be not just sitting scrolling on your phone looking at a screen. The blue light blocker glasses I actually really like. I don't have a pair that I'm using right now, but they're pretty awesome. So highly recommend those. They're like 10 or 15 bucks on Amazon. Number three, I would start a sleep journal. So this can just be a simple blurb about how you slept and how you felt the next day, but you can leave this right next to your bed. You can have it on your phone if you want, but just a quick little journal that says, here's what my quality of sleep was the previous night. So I was like 10 out of 10 quality, slept great, or 2 out of 10, I was tossing and turning all night and had a nightmare and whatever. And then quantity of sleep, so how many hours you actually slept, and just how you felt throughout the next day. And then once you get a little bit of data and you can see kind of some patterns, you can start to realize, okay, when I sleep 6 to 8 hours, I feel the best, or maybe it's 6 to 7 for me, or maybe I'm one of those people that needs 9+. Everyone's a little different here, but you can start to recognize patterns and figure out exactly what sort of sleep environment is best for you. And then the last thing I would do here is normalize my exposure to sunlight in the morning. So ideally, if you can get up out of bed and outside, I personally try to get outside every day first thing in the morning, but just get some sun exposure, natural sunlight first thing in the morning. That'll start telling your body how to regulate your circadian rhythm, and it'll make it easier to start feeling tired the times that you do need to go to bed the night before. Last thing for sleep, I would cut out caffeine and any stimulants 8 hours before you need to go to bed. The half-life of caffeine is such that if you cut it about 8 to 10 hours before you go to bed, there will be almost none in your system. All right, number three action step is going to be cut the obvious crap. You know what obvious crap is. Everyone knows what obvious crap is. It's hyper palatable food. Like that crack food that you just have one bite and your response isn't like, ooh, this is tasty. Your response is like, that's amazing. More now. Try to avoid that. There's something called the hyperpalatability food hypothesis that essentially just says that those types of foods that are super delicious and hit the reward centers in your brain are primarily a cause of obesity and overweightness. So if you can just avoid those super hyper palatable foods, like, you know what that means. And I'm going to leave that up to you and your subjective discretion. Like Pop-Tart, piece of chicken, you know what the choice is there. All right, next two action steps here, numbers 4 and 5, are going to be consider HIIT training and consider some type of fasting. HIIT training is incredible in terms of the growth hormone response that your body has to HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training. So something like a 20 to 30 second sprint. Now, sprint can be any form of vigorous activity that's done at a very high intensity. So you could do burpees for 20 seconds. And I would shoot for 3 intense bouts of 20 to 30 seconds. If you can go up to even like 45 seconds, like if you really have a solid aerobic capacity, 3 sessions of 45 seconds will probably thrash you, but your body has a huge growth hormone response to HIIT type training, and growth hormone helps to promote muscle tissue, promote healthy connective and skeletal tissue. It also is really positive for your skin. Like most people, when they have increased growth hormone levels, they notice their skin's very healthy, and it helps burn body fat very effectively. So growth hormone overall, endogenously, I mean, not from elsewhere outside of your body, is super healthy at elevated levels. And while we're on growth hormone, another thing that's phenomenal for growth hormone is fasting. Now, fasting you can do intermittently, you can do a single day fast. I made another video that I'll put a card to that is a full breakdown of the different types of fasting, how they compare to like a keto or a carnivore diet. So if you're interested in fasting at all, I would highly recommend you check out that video because I do a deeper breakdown than I'm going to do in this one. But fasting is incredible for inflammation, as well as a lot of hormonal indicators, like I just mentioned, like growth hormone, things like that. Make sure that you're implementing fasting correctly if you're going to do this one. But in terms of overall metabolic health, fasting is something that humans have done historically all the time. It's very healthy for us to do. It's very natural for our body, and it can really improve so many markers related to insulin resistance, related to overall body fat, related to inflammation. Fasting is honestly incredible. So highly recommend you check out that video if you want a deeper dive into fasting. All right, last 3 action steps here, and then we'll break all of them down, talk about how the entire set of action steps ties into metabolic health. Number 6 is going to be to implement some sort of strength training routine. I would start with 3 sessions a week here, 30 to 45 minutes. You can get a great strength training session in 30 minutes, and focus on compound movements that utilize a large portion of your musculature at once, as well as fundamental human movement patterns. So I've got another video breaking that down coming soon, but those are pulling either horizontally or vertically, pushing horizontally or vertically, squatting, lunging, walking or ambulation, and hinging. So hinging at the hip, as in like a Romanian deadlift, or even crunches are technically a hinge. And if you can build a strength training routine that's centered around those fundamental human movements, incorporate that something like 3 times a week for 30 to 45 minutes, you'll be in awesome shape. And this will drastically improve almost all other areas of your metabolism. 7, I would track protein. Maintaining lean body mass is very critical for longevity. It's actually tied to survival rates in older individuals. So maintaining lean body mass, or even increasing lean body mass earlier on in your life, will help you preserve muscle, honestly just feel and look better, and just have a more enjoyable life. This will help you have a bigger lifespan, but also a greater longevity span or health span. And then number 8, something I found is extremely useful for managing stress, reducing cortisol, and helping put your body into a parasympathetic mode where you're not stressed out, anxious, ruminating about, stressful things that happen throughout your day, is a prayer or meditation practice, whichever one's right for you. But just taking some time to intentionally sit, be calm. Guided meditation, I found at first, was a lot more helpful for me. It takes you a little bit of practice to kind of get into a rhythm and get comfortable with just sitting quietly with your own thoughts. But highly recommend meditation or prayer if you want to implement that to just decrease stress, get your body chilling out and recovering. All right, let's bring it all together and honestly look at how insane this is. If you remember the list that I put up earlier, I was trying to outline all the factors that we were going to hit on. And I tried to tie each of those action steps to all the factors that it would positively impact. And as you can see, it's crazy. And they each impact each other. So like I said earlier in this video, if you can just make 1 or 2 of these changes, you don't have to make all 8. If you can just make 1 or 2, you're going to generate this awesome positive feedback loop that just spirals you in a positive direction towards overall health and metabolic health and feeling better. So let's review the 8 action steps again and just do a super quick summary of each of them. Number 1, pursue a healthy body weight and body fat. Again, we said in BMI terms, 18.5 to 25. The body fat ranges that I referenced earlier. This is subjective. Look how you want to look, feel how you want to feel, but being in a healthy body weight and body fat range will generally be better for health. Number 2, develop a sleep routine to include minimizing nighttime light, sleep journal, and getting sunlight in the morning. Number 3, cut the obvious crap. We all know what the obvious crap is. I'm not saying you got to be perfect. I'm not saying once in a while you can't have a cheeseburger or some pizza or some ice cream. I do as well. But you know what the obvious, shenanigans are in your diet. See if you can minimize those. If you're still going to have a cheat meal or something like that, drink some water before and have 30 grams of protein before. I got another video on that also, but really good strategy to help you just drop cravings so you don't eat as much junk. Number 4, training consideration. Look into high intensity interval training. Something like 3 sprints of 30 seconds with a minute or 2 rest in between. Massive impact on growth hormone as well as other hormones. Number 5, consider fasting, whether that's intermittent, whether that's a multi-day fast. Again, check out that other video if you're interested in fasting and more of a detailed breakdown on how it actually works. Number 6 and 7, consider strength training and track your protein. If you do nothing else with your diet and just start tracking your protein, shoot for 1 pound per pound of ideal body weight. So the body weight that you want to be at, that'll put you in a great place. Just doing that one alone, tracking protein, will prevent you from overeating junk food, reduce inflammation, probably move you towards a healthier body weight. There's a reason why all the fitness bros are protein, because it's effing important. It just is. And last, consider meditation or prayer. It's really awesome for just getting you into a chill headspace, as well as, the other benefits of connecting with your creator, connecting with the universe, and just having some time to really understand who you are at a deep level. And of course, the entire web funnels down to the S here. So you can be Superman or Superwoman. Actually, it stands for subscribe because we're at the end of the video. So, all right, see ya.